Apothecary Diaries, Volume 1, Chapter 2, The Two Consorts.
Huh? So it's true? It is. She said she saw the doctor go into their rooms with their own eyes.
Mamo sipped her soup and listened. Hundreds of serving girls were having their breakfast in the vast dining room. The meal consisted of soup and a porridge of mixed grains. She was listening to two women diagonally across from her as they traded gossip. The woman took pains to look chagrined about the story, but it was an unseemly curiosity that lit their eyes.
He visited both Lady Gyokyo and Lady Lihua. Gracious, both of them? But they're only 6 months and 3 months, aren't they? That's right. Maybe it really is a curse.
The names were those of the emperor's two favorite consorts. 6 months and 3 months were the ages of the lady's children. Rumors were rife in the palace. Some of them sprang from contempt for His Majesty's companions and the airs they bore him, but others had more the savour of simple ghost stories, the sorts of tales told during the summer doldrums to beat the heat by chilling the blood.
It must be. Otherwise, why would 3 separate children have died?
All of the offspring in question had been born to consorts. That is to say, they could, in principle, have been heirs to the throne. One of the poor victims had been born to His Majesty before his ascension, while he still lived in the Eastern Palace, and 2 more since he had assumed the throne, but all 3 had passed away in infancy. Mortality was common among infants, of course, but that 3 of the emperor's own progeny should die so young was strange. Only 2 children, those of the consorts Gyokyo and Lihua, still survived. Poisonings, perhaps? Mama mused, sipping her porridge, but she concluded it couldn't be. After all, 2 of the 3 dead children had been girls, and in a land where only men could inherit the throne, what reason was there to murder princesses? The women across from Mama were so busy talking about curses and hexes that they had stopped eating entirely. But there's no such thing as curses, Mama thought. It was stupid that there was such a word for it. How could you destroy an entire clan with one curse? Such questions bordered on the heretical, but Mama's expertise, she felt, constituted proof of this pronouncement. Could it have been some kind of sickness? Something blood-borne, maybe? How exactly did they die? And that was when the detached, quiet maid began talking to her chatty dining companions. It would not be long before Mama regretted succumbing to her curiosity.
I don't know the whole story, but I heard they all wasted away.
Apparently inspired by Malmo's show of interest, Xiaolan, the talkative maid, thereafter regularly brought her the latest rumors.
The doctors have been to see Lady Lihua more often than Lady Gyokyo, so I guess Lady Lihua must be worse.
She wiped at a window frame with a rag as she spoke. Lady Lihua herself?
Yes, it's mother and child both.
Mama supposed the doctor paid closer attention to Lady Lihua, not necessarily because she was more sick, but because her child was born a little prince. Consort Gyokyo had borne a princess. The imperial affection fell more upon Gyokyo. But when one child was a boy and the other a girl, which one should receive preferential treatment was clear.
Like I said, I don't know everything, but I've heard she's had headaches and stomach aches and even nausea.
Satisfied that she had divulged all her newest gleanings, Xiaolan busied herself with another task. By way of thanks, Mamo gave her some tea flavored with licorice. She made it with some herbs that grew in the corner of the central garden. It smelled strongly medicinal, but was, in fact, quite sweet. Xiaolan was thrilled. Serving girls had all too few opportunities to enjoy sweet things. Headaches, stomachache, and nausea. Mamo had some ideas as to what illnesses these might portend, but she couldn't be sure, and her father had never tired of admonishing her not to do thinking based on assumptions. Maybe I'll just pay her a little visit. Mama was determined to finish her work as quickly as possible. The rear palace was in fact a vast place housing more than 2,000 women and 500 eunuchs on the premises. Lowly workers like Mau Mau slept 10 to a room, but the lower-ranked consorts had their own chambers. Mid-ranking ones had whole buildings to themselves, and the highest-ranking consorts virtually had their own palaces, sprawling complexes including dining halls and gardens, large enough to dwarf a small town. Thus, Mau Mau rarely left the eastern quarter where she lived. There was no need. She had neither the time nor the means to leave unless she was sent on some errand. Well, if I don't have an errand, I'll just have to make one. Mau Mau spoke to a woman holding a basket. The basket contained fine silk that would have to be washed over in the laundry area in the western quarter. No one seemed to know whether there was something different about the water there, or perhaps about the people who had did the washing, but apparently the silk would be ruined if handled here in the eastern quarter. Mama understood that silk degraded more or less depending on whether it was dried out in the sun or kept in the shade, but she felt no particular need to tell anybody that.
I'm just dying to get a look at the gorgeous eunuch they say lives in the central area,
Mamo said, invoking one of the other rumors Shalin had mentioned in passing, and the women gladly gave her the basket. Chances for anything resembling romance were few and far between in the palace, so that even the eunuchs, men who were not really men, soon became something to swoon over. Stories were even told from time to time of women who became wives of eunuchs after they left palace service. Presumably this was all the healthier than the women lusting after each other instead. But still, it puzzled Mau Mau. Wonder if I'll end up like everyone else one day, she thought to herself. She crossed her arms and grunted. Romantic matters held scant interest for her. She delivered the basket of laundry as quickly as she could, and then a red lacquered building of the central area came into view. Carvings were everywhere, every pillar like a work of art unto itself. Each detail had been attended to, so that the whole was far more refined than anything on the fringes of the eastern quarter. At present, the largest quarters in the rear palace were occupied by Consort Lihua, the mother of the prince. The emperor was without an empress proper, which made Lihua, the only one of the women with a son, the most powerful person here. The scene Mau Mau discovered looked almost as if it had come from the city itself. One woman fulminated, one hung her head in gloom, while the others fussed and fretted, and a man tried to make peace among them all. It's hardly different from a brothel, Mau Mau thought, a cold observation made possible by her status as a third party, if not a gawker. The upset woman was the most powerful person in the rear palace, the one hanging her head the next most powerful, and the fussy women were attendants. The man, no doubt a man no longer at this point, interceding was the doctor. So much Mau Mau gathered from the whispering she heard and the general state of things around her. The first woman would have to be Consort Lihua, mother of the imperial prince, and the second woman would be Consort Gyokyo, blessed, though not quite so blessed as Liha, with a daughter. As for the eunuch doctor, Mau Mau knew nothing about him, but she had heard that in this whole great palace there was only one person who could truly be called a practitioner of medicine.
This is your doing. Just because you had a girl, you got it into your head to curse my prince to death.
A beautiful face distorted by anger is a frightful thing. Eyes as furious as a demon's, set in a face as pale as a ghost's, were turned upon the beautiful Gyokyo, who held a hand to her cheek. There was a red mark under her fingers. She had, Mau Mau surmised, been slapped with an open hand.
That isn't true, and you know it. My Shaoling is suffering just as much as your son.
The second woman had red hair and eyes the color of emeralds, and she answered the charges calmly, referring to the young Princess Lingli by an affectionate nickname. Consort Gyokyo's look suggested no small amount of Western blood in her veins. Now she raised her head and glared at the doctor.
And that's why I request that you not neglect to attend to my daughter as well.
It seemed the doctor himself was the reason intercession had been needed between the two women. He had been spending all his time looking in here at the young prince, and Gyokyo was appealing in her daughter's behalf. One sympathized with her, but this was the rear palace, and male children were more prized than female ones. The doctor, for his part, looked caught between trying to make an excuse and total speechlessness.
What a knave, that Sawbones!
Mao thought, to fail to notice with the two consorts right in front of him. How could he have not figured it out already, anyway? The dead infants, the headaches, the stomach pains, the nausea, to say nothing of Consort Li Hua's ghostly pallor and frail appearance. Muttering to herself, Mama put the raucous scene behind her. I need something to write on, she thought. She was so busy thinking of it, in fact, that she didn't even notice the person passing by.